Hi everyone, this is Sandra from Savvy Teaching Tips, and I'm here today to talk to you about how I teach graphing with younger students. But before I forget, don't forget to check that subscribe button and ring that bell so that you get regular notifications about when I'm going to post my videos. Today I'm going to review with you how I teach graphing in kindergarten up to grade 3. This year I'm going to be teaching a 2-3 split class, which means half my class is going to be second grade and half my class is going to be third grade. So I plan to start my year off with a graphing unit. It's low stress, the kids like it, and it's easy to prep. So there's no difficult computations, and there's lots of moving around and manipulating objects, a lot of sort of play-based learning. It's really good for kids with poor self-regulation. And my philosophy has always been that kids learn best when they get to play with things and manipulate things and move them around. It's sort of a multi-sensory approach. So the first thing I do is I tell the kids that graphing is organizing the information. So when we put it in a graph, we put it there to make it easy to see things between the numbers. It's easy to learn things about what we are graphing. It's easy to compare numbers. Graphing is a problem-solving tool that's used to help people see relationships between things. It's a natural offshoot from sorting and classifying. When I've taught K in first, I like to start the year with a unit on sorting and classifying. Kids need to learn how to sort things by their attributes in order to pay attention to those attributes so that they can graph them by those attributes. And I have a graphing unit in my TPT store, and it's linked below. It's low prep, it's easy to follow, but it's not all that I do when I'm teaching graphing. So first, I teach real graphs, and what I mean by a real graph is we actually use the objects to do the graphing. So for example, we might use our bodies. We might graph boys and girls in the classroom. And when we do that, they have to use their bodies to make a real life graph. I get the kids to line up and see one lineup of boys and one lineup of girls, and I've got tiles on the floor, and I put one child in each tile, and then they can see which lineup is longer, and they can compare more and less, how many more, how many less, those sorts of things. Then we can do a picture graph, which is what I've got in my unit in the TPT store, where we take pictures, a boy and a girl, and they cut out their own picture, and we put them up on the class graph on a big chart paper, and they compare the graph this way, and we spend some more time talking about how many more, how many less, which one is fewer, which one is bigger. Because I teach an ESL population, I tend to go over the vocabulary a lot associated with the math concept. And then I might put the poster up on the wall and leave it there. And I can leave it up there for a long time. We can compare back to it all the time. How many more girls, how many more boys. If somebody moves in or somebody leaves, we can add a different person to the graph. Anyway, that kind of a graph has two attributes, boy and girl. We can also do graphs with like 3 objects. So we're going to do it with fruit. So apple, pear, banana. And we could do picture graphs using those. And that's also part of my unit. So that's how I would teach it. Another thing that I like to do is use my math junk. And so I've linked a post down below from my blog about what math junk is. Basically, it's a collection of things that I've gathered over the years for the kids to use as math manipulatives. So I've got old lids from markers. They're all different colors. I've got little pieces of bread, like bread tags that came off the end of a loaf of bread in lots of colors. I've got soda pop lids, all sorts of things. Anyway, I also use those things, the kids will graph them. So what I might do is I have some blank graphs, and I'm going to link a link below for a freebie where you can get your own graphs. But anyway, these graphs are blank, and the kids can put the manipulatives or the math junk in them. And what's great about it is I'll just give them a handful of whatever we're working on, so then they don't have to worry about having something that's too much for the graph, because the graph can only be as big as a piece of paper. But so maybe I've got some soda lids. I've got red lids and white lids together, so I might grab a handful and give it to them. And then I'll go around the room and give everybody a handful, and so that they can graph their own, and then they can write it down. You can write it down on a piece of paper, they can write it down on a worksheet, they could write it down on a whiteboard, they can write it in their math journal and draw a picture of it. There's lots of ways to continue the learning with this. Another great thing that you can use when you're doing graphing is those Target mini erasers. I love those Target mini erasers. The kids love them. I don't know, there's something about the consistency and texture of them and the vibrant colors that just make them really appealing. Anyway, using those Target mini erasers, you can hand them out to each kid and give them a blank page with their graph on it. And again, I've also got below linked a freebie with the Target mini erasers graphing. And that's so easy, you just photocopy it and give it. And then they would go through the process of doing the graphing on the paper, and then they can remove the object and draw the eraser underneath it. And so they have an actual picture graph, and then they can do the tally and get the number of them that they have. They can use those numbers to add up how many they have in total, which they have more of, when they have fewer of, and that sort of thing. So it's really engaging. And then you can, if they finish that, then you can give them a worksheet with 3 attributes and give them a handful of erasers that's got 3 different types of erasers in it. And I wanted to just finish up with I'm teaching a 3rd grade this year. And I've never taught 3rd grade before, so this will be interesting. But I'm going to introduce graphing with the math junk first. I want the kids, even though they're 3rd graders, they still need time to play a little bit with the manipulatives. And because my math junk is new to them, then they're going to need a little bit longer time to play with this and get it out of their system. And then we'll get on to using it for graphing. Anyway, because I'm teaching 3rd grade, I'm going to introduce the graphing with the math junk and the mini erasers, and then I'm going to move into creating picture graphs, analyzing the information, and then my curriculum, or my standards here, say that I also need to teach bar graphs to 3rd grade. So that's going to be a new one for me, and I haven't quite figured out what I'm going to do for that. But when I come up with the answer to that one, I'll let you know. But anyway, it doesn't matter. If you're teaching 1st grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, kindergarten, you can start all of these off the same way and just spend less time at the beginning and working more if you have older students. Yeah, so that's all for today. If you really liked my video, please subscribe or like and ring that bell. Don't forget, you can also check out my Instagram and my Facebook at Savvy Teaching Tips. You can check out my blog, savvyteachingtips.com, or my TikTok at Savvy Teaching. And that's all for today. Bye.